29% of people who buy a smartwatch stop wearing it. Gartner found that years ago surveyed nearly 10,000 owners across 3 countries, and the number has barely moved since. Swap smartwatch for watch, and the pattern barely changes. This isn't a list of bad watches. Some of these are excellent. The failure isn't always in the object. Sometimes it's in what the buyer thought they were purchasing and what showed up on their wrist instead. By the end, you'll understand why the last entry isn't a brand at all. It's a person, and it's the only one that's never really been about the watch. Number 12. Pagani design. Somewhere on AliExpress right now, a watch that looks unmistakably like an Omega Aquaterra is selling for under $100. It has a sapphire crystal. It has a Japanese automatic movement. From 3 feet away, in a dim room, it could fool your coworker. That's the entire pitch. And for a few weeks, it works. Pagani Design built a business on proximity, not originality. Proximity to watches their customers actually want, but can't yet justify buying. A Submariner homage, a Speedmaster homage, a PRX homage, because apparently even the homages need homages now. The brand doesn't pretend otherwise. Nobody at Pagani is claiming heritage, or hand finishing, or a workshop in Geneva. It's an honest transaction. Cheap stand-in, real price tag, no illusions. Then, the watch arrives, and the owner discovers what proximity actually costs. One Watch You Seek poster described unwrapping a Pagani Daytona homage, putting it straight back in the box, and listing it on eBay the same week. He broke even. Another forum thread documented a bracelet where the taper had been ground unevenly, more off one side than the other, like the person finishing it had stopped paying attention halfway through. A third owner bought the brand's Tissot PRX homage specifically to feel out sizing before a real purchase. He sold it within days once he realized the cheap stand-in told him nothing useful about the real watch. It just told him the homage was thin. By month 4, most Pagani buyers have either saved enough for the real Aquaterra or decided they didn't actually want one in the first place. They wanted what the Aquaterra represented for $90. Either way, the homage gets boxed up, often sold for half of what was paid, or left in a drawer until someone lists it barely worn and means it literally. You can't blame the manufacturer for this one. Pagani told you exactly what it was selling. The buyer just didn't realize they were buying a stepping stone, not a watch. $100 homage disappointing you is one thing. A watch with the name Museum built into its identity disappointing you in a completely different way? That's number 11. Number 11. Movado Museum Classic. In 1947, an industrial designer named Nathan George Horwit sketched something deceptively simple. A black dial, a single dot at 12 o'clock. No numbers, no clutter. He wanted people to read time the way they read a sundial, by relationship rather than counting. Within a year, Movado was producing the watch without his permission, without credit, and without paying him a cent. The legal fight that followed took 27 years. Horwit finally settled in 1975 for $29,000. After his death, Movado heavily promoted his name. That is a different kind of story, but it tells you something about what this design was worth to the people who used it. It is also, by multiple independent reviewers' accounts, nearly impossible to read. The Truth About Watches gave the Museum Classic 1 star out of 5 for legibility, noting that in most lighting, the hands disappear entirely into the black dial. No anti-reflective coating means the watch frequently turns into a small mirror instead of a timepiece. One reviewer joked that depending on the angle of light, it becomes nothing more than a solid black sapphire circle. And this is the part that should bother you. This isn't a manufacturing defect. It's the design working exactly as intended. Horwit didn't want hour markers competing with his single dot. He wanted minimalism, so total it became almost abstract. He got exactly that. What he didn't anticipate, in 1947, was a customer decades later standing under fluorescent office lighting, squinting at their wrist, unable to tell if it's 2:15 or 2:40. The honeymoon is real, and it isn't even short. People wear the Museum Classic to weddings, interviews, first dates. It photographs beautifully. It says something about taste without saying anything loudly. For months, sometimes years, that's enough. Then comes the moment. Almost every owner has one. Standing somewhere dim, tilting their wrist at 3 angles, unable to find the hands, eventually just pulling out their phone instead. It happens once. It's mildly funny. It happens 4 more times that month and stops being funny at all. The watch doesn't break. Nothing fails mechanically. The owner just slowly stops trusting it to do the one thing a watch is supposed to do, and a watch you don't trust to tell time is, eventually, just jewelry you forget to put on. Movado has sold this dial for nearly 80 years on watches, clocks, pens, and earrings. The aesthetic appeal was never in question. The complaint isn't taste. Its function quietly losing a fight it was never built to win. At least the museum classic disappoints you quietly. The next one announces itself the moment it touches your wrist and then keeps announcing itself for the rest of the day. Before we move on to the next part, let me tell you this. Most people don't realize this, but buying a watch the wrong way can cost you thousands, and you won't even notice it until it's too late. That's why I created a complete insider guide to buying watches. The goal is simple. I'll help you stop guessing and start buying smart. You'll find the guide in the pinned comment and description. Now, let's move on to the next part. Number 10. Breitling Super Avenger, 48.5 millimeters. The half matters to the people who own one, and they will correct you if you forget it. There's a particular feeling that comes with strapping on a watch this size for the first time. One UK forum poster described it without irony. He bought the Super Avenger, and the next day, everything else in his collection felt tiny. He called it ruined. He meant that as praise. That's the honeymoon, and it's intoxicating. The Super Avenger isn't subtle about what it's selling. It's a wrist-mounted statement of intent, built for people who tried on a Submariner and thought, politely, that's cute. The bezel is enormous. The crown guards look like they're protecting something important. Strangers notice it. That's the whole point. Then real life happens. A shirt cuff that used to slide easily over a watch now has to be coaxed, sometimes forced. A laptop bag strap catching the lug edge at exactly the wrong angle on the train. A long flight where the watch, which felt powerful in the bathroom mirror that morning, starts to feel like a small weight bolted to the wrist by hour 6. One forum thread on the brand's own community has a recurring shape. Someone asks if the Super Avenger is too big, owners say no, go for it. And a smaller number quietly mention they sold theirs within the year because it stopped fitting their life, even though it never stopped fitting their wrist. The trick this watch plays on you is simple. The size that feels powerful standing in front of a mirror is the exact same size that feels exhausting standing on a crowded train at 6 p.m. The watch hasn't changed between those two moments. The owner has. By month 8 or 9, the pattern tends to repeat. The watch comes off just today because of a tight cuff, then again because the wrist is sore. Then it sits in the box for 3 weeks before the owner admits, usually to themselves first, that the watch they fell for in a showroom mirror isn't the watch they want strapped to their arm at a desk for 9 hours a day. It's not a bad watch. It might be one of the most honest watches on this list because it never pretended to be anything other than enormous. The mistake wasn't Breitling's. It was buying for the mirror instead of for the Tuesday. Size regret you can usually see coming even if you ignore the warning signs. This next one hides its flaw in plain sight, on a dial people photograph more than almost any other watch under $500. Number 9. Tissot PRX Quartz. Scroll through enough watch content on Instagram in the mid-2020s, and you will eventually hit a PRX. The integrated bracelet, the waffle-textured dial, the unmistakable 70s into 80s silhouette that makes a $400 Swiss watch photograph like something 5 times the price. Tissot built a genuine hit. The PRX earned its hype honestly. And then an owner gets it home, sits down, and actually looks at the seconds hand. It doesn't land on the markers. Not occasionally. Consistently, in a repeating pattern, the second hand drifts off the minute track for roughly half the dial before swinging back into alignment, then drifting again. One WatchCrunch poster called it the worst mistake, specifically because Tissot's own description of the movement, the ETA F6.115, frames the misalignment as a known side effect of the shock-resistant design, not a defect to be fixed. Watch You Seek threads on the subject read the same way. Looms poor, minute hand points wherever you put it, one owner wrote, before adding that the second hand hits the marks, but can imagine some don't. This is the part that gets under people's skin. It's not a single bad unit, it's not a fluke. It's the watch. working as designed, just not working the way the owner assumed an entry-level Swiss watch would work. For the first few weeks, almost nobody notices. The PRX gets worn to brunch, photographed on a marble countertop, paired with a linen shirt for the algorithm. It's doing exactly the job it was bought for. Then, usually around week 6 or 7, the owner glances down mid-conversation, watches the second hand glide past a marker instead of landing on it, and something shifts. They can't stop seeing it after that. Multiple threads describe the exact same arc. Notice it once, can't unsee it, eventually remove the second hand entirely, or sell the watch outright. The cruelty is quiet but real. The PRX was never marketed as a precision instrument. Nobody bought it expecting chronometer-grade accuracy for $400. They bought it because it photographed like luxury, and the misalignment is the one detail a photograph never catches. You only find it in person, on your own wrist, the moment you stop performing for a camera and start actually using the thing. A misaligned hand is annoying. A watch that physically marks your skin is something else entirely, and it costs $300 to find that out. Number 8. Moonswatch, Mission to Neptune. People lined up outside Swatch stores at dawn in 2022 for this watch. Some waited hours, some flew to different cities chasing inventory. By the time the Mission to Neptune colorway sold out, resale listings on eBay were quoting prices 30 times retail for a watch that, by Swatch's own description, was never meant to be a limited edition at all. That's the buying experience. Adrenaline, scarcity, a small plastic object that felt, for one morning, like the most important purchase in the world. The crash came fast. Within days of the first units reaching wrists, owners on Reddit and watch forums started posting photos of blue stains on their skin, the pigment from the dark Mission to Neptune bioceramic case bleeding onto sweaty wrists. Swatch's response, reported by Gear Patrol, was that the discoloration was harmless and very, very rare, and that quality teams had already addressed it at the production level. That reassurance did nothing for the people already holding a stained wrist, and a watch that, 3 days in, looked less like a collectible and more like a leaking pen. The staining wasn't even the most common complaint. The crystal was. Multiple Watch You Seek threads describe the acrylic crystal scratching from almost nothing. A jacket pocket, the lid of its own box, a casual bump against a desk. One commenter described breaking a chronograph pusher simply by reaching into his pocket while filming an unboxing video. One Watch Crunch poster summarized the entire arc in a single post. He received a Neptune model as a gift, loved it for exactly the amount of time the novelty lasted, watched the color fade and the crystal pick up scratches, and sold it. He replaced it with a Seiko, costing almost £100 less, and called it a far better watch in every department. That sentence is the whole story of this entry. The Moonswatch was never bought as a watch in the conventional sense. It was bought as a moment, a flex, a piece of cultural participation that happened to also tell time. Once the moment passed, and it always passes faster than buyers expect, what's left is a $40 movement in a plastic case that scratches if you look at it wrong. $40 of plastic losing its shine is a small loss. The next entry made grown men panic sell within 48 hours. And the watch in question came from a company that built half its identity on people waiting patiently for years. Number 7. Swatch X Audemars Piguet Royal Pop. On the 16th of May, 2026, police were deployed outside stores in Paris. Crowds were turned away in Mumbai and Singapore. Within hours, secondary market listings for the Swatch X Audemars Piguet Royal Pop collaboration, a $400 pocket watch built around AP's Royal Oak design language, were quoting $8,000 on Chrono 24, before most buyers had even left the boutique. 48 hours later, the same watch had lost 72% of its resale value. What happened in between is the actual story. Late on May 16, Swatch issued a clarification that should have been obvious from the start. The Royal Pop was not a limited edition. Production would continue. The launch day chaos, the lines, the police, the panic, was all about access on a single morning, not a finite number of watches that would never exist again. Once that sank in, the flippers who'd paid 4-figure premiums understood exactly what they were holding. A watch anyone could walk in and buy in 2 weeks. At retail, no line required. The math, once laid out, is almost embarrassing. Average resale on the most hyped colorways peaked around $4,400. Within a single trading day, that figure had dropped to around $1,200, a 72% collapse documented by WatchGuy's market tracking. WWD reported people trading cash for watches while still in line, then re-entering the same line to buy another. Resale groups were advertising units before official sales had even concluded. This is the part worth sitting with for a second. Nobody lied about the watch. Swatch never called it limited. The chaos was manufactured entirely by buyers assuming scarcity that was never promised, racing each other toward a ceiling that didn't exist, and then discovering, in real time, that the floor was a lot closer than anyone had priced in. Industry coverage at the time framed it as a collision between two completely different economics: AP's decades-long tradition of genuine, controlled scarcity, built on actual waiting lists and actual limited production, fused onto Swatch's mass-market, always-available model. The result wasn't really a watch collapse. It was a market correcting itself, violently, the moment enough people checked the facts at the same time. Most of the people who bought to flip never wore it for a single day. It went from boutique counter to listing, then to a panic sale at a fraction of the price within the same week it launched. Speculation collapsing in 2 days stings. The next entry took years, swallowed more than $1 million of other people's money, and ended with the company simply gone. Number 6. Central Standard Timing CST-01. 7,658 people once believed a watch could be thinner than a strip of paper. Central Standard Timing put the idea on Kickstarter in 2013, calling it the world's thinnest watch. A fully flexible e-ink display wrapped around the wrist, no traditional case. Backers pledged over $1 million on the promise. Delivery was scheduled for September of that year. The pitch was exciting. No glass to crack, no bulky case, a blank, featureless strip of e-ink that would only show numbers when you wanted it to. It looked like something out of a design magazine, and for a moment, it felt like crowdfunding, doing exactly what it was supposed to do, funding something too strange for a traditional manufacturer to greenlight. Then came the part crowdfunding never advertises. Building a curved e-ink display that survives being worn, bent, sweated on, and slept in turned out to be a different problem from building a flat one for a lab demo. Delays piled up. Updates went quiet for months. By 2015, the company posted what amounted to an apology, explaining that Flextronics, its manufacturing partner, had walked away from the project. The tone told backers everything they needed to know. A year of silence followed. Then the company filed for bankruptcy, listing $30,000 in assets against nearly $900,000 in liabilities. Backers who'd pledged in 2013 received paperwork instead of a watch. What separates this entry from a simple late shipping story is one detail. Central Standard Timing wasn't running a scam. There's no evidence anyone pocketed the money and walked away laughing. The team appears to have believed honestly that it could solve a hard manufacturing problem on a Kickstarter timeline and budget, and the problem turned out to be harder than the pitch deck admitted, even to itself. That's almost worse, in a way. A scam has a villain. This one just has an idea too ambitious for the company chasing it, and thousands of people who paid the price for that ambition without ever putting the watch on their wrist. At least the CST-01 backers never got attached to a physical object that betrayed them. The next two entries did something different. They sold the watch, built genuine loyalty around it, and then broke a promise in writing. Number 5. Whoop. For years, Whoop's entire pitch to customers was simple. Pay the subscription, skip the hardware upgrade cycle. Members who'd been on the platform for 6 months or more would receive the next generation device for free. No new purchase, no upgrade fee. That promise lived on the company's own blog, fully public, documented by the Wayback Machine as recently as the 28th of March, 2025. People believed it because the company had told them to. In May 2025, Whoop unveiled its new 5.0 and MG devices, and the upgrade policy quietly changed. Existing subscribers would now need to either pay a $49 fee, $79 for the model with EKG sensors, or extend their subscription by a full year before qualifying for free hardware. The blog post that had promised otherwise had, by then, been deleted. The backlash was immediate. A Reddit thread titled, "Whoop lied to us. End of story," gathered close to 800 upvotes within days. Another, cataloging the deleted promise with screenshots, climbed past 1,500. One post simply read, "Upvote this if you just canceled your subscription." It collected 2,400 upvotes. Whoop reversed part of the policy within the week, restoring free upgrades for members with 12 or more months remaining on their plan. The reversal didn't undo the part that mattered, though. As one TechCrunch-quoted Reddit moderator put it, "You don't publish a policy by accident and keep it live for years. Removing it after backlash doesn't erase that it was real." Several users pointed out a specific cruelty in the rollback. Anyone with 11 months left, 1 month short of the new cutoff, got nothing. What should bother you more than the fee itself is this. Whoop's entire business model depends on trust that outlasts any single purchase. You're not buying a watch once. You're paying every year, indefinitely, on the promise that the relationship keeps improving. The moment that promise breaks in writing, on the company's own website, the whole arrangement starts to look less like a partnership and more like a subscription you forgot you could cancel. A loyal customer, reviewing the saga afterward, put it about as plainly as anyone could. After years of trusting Whoop with daily recovery data and reading it like scripture every morning, he realized the company simply didn't care about him, and he lost confidence that future innovation would ever reach him without another fight. A broken promise about free hardware is one kind of betrayal. The next brand built its entire identity around a different broken promise. Then watch the algorithm that made it famous simply move on. Number 4. Daniel Wellington. $70 million in revenue. Over 1 million watches sold, almost entirely off the back of Instagram. That's what Daniel Wellington had built by 2014. The formula was simple. A thin, minimalist face, a NATO strap in whatever color matched the influencer's outfit that week, and a discount code under every sponsored photo. The founder bought a penthouse in Stockholm. The brand became, briefly, the most recognizable watch on the platform that made it. None of that was an accident, and none of it had much to do with watchmaking. The honeymoon, for the customer, lasted exactly as long as the aesthetic did. The watch looked clean in photos. It cost less than a dinner out. It matched everything. For a certain kind of buyer, that was the entire value proposition, and for a while it delivered. Then the watch started to fail in ways that had nothing to do with style. Trustpilot reviews describe hands coming loose and detaching after only weeks of normal wear, with the company initially refusing to honor it as a warranty claim. Another reviewer, on a different watch entirely, described the hands failing inside 2 months. A third bought the brand's flagship automatic model, priced near $500, only to find an undecorated movement borrowed wholesale from far cheaper competitors, the same bare-bones caliber found in watches costing a fraction of the price. What actually sank the brand's reputation among people who know watches is this. Serious enthusiasts had never taken Daniel Wellington seriously to begin with, criticizing the lack of any horological history, and the quality complaints simply confirmed what that crowd already suspected. The brand never needed that audience, though. It needed the Instagram audience, and Instagram audiences move fast. By the time owners started comparing notes on broken hands and bare movements, the platform that built the brand had already drifted toward other aesthetics, other influencers, other 30% discount codes. The watch didn't change, the algorithm did. And a watch whose entire appeal was borrowed from a feed has no way to survive once that feed scrolls past it. Daniel Wellington lost relevance slowly. Over years, the next brand lost trust in a single announcement, on a device that cost up to $1,000, sold explicitly on the promise that this would never happen. Number 3. Garmin Connect Plus. Garmin built its reputation on being the brand that didn't do what everyone else in the category eventually does. No mandatory subscription. Pay once for the hardware, get the software forever. That reputation was worth real money. People paid over $1,000 for a Phoenix watch specifically because Garmin had never asked for more. In March 2025, that changed. Garmin introduced Connect Plus, a $7 a month tier offering AI-driven insights and personalized health features layered on top of the free Garmin Connect app that had existed for years. The backlash arrived within hours. A Reddit post calling for a boycott gathered 10,000 upvotes. A second thread, titled to call out the company directly for asking customers to pay a software fee on top of a $1,000 device, collected nearly 9,000 upvotes and almost 600 comments in 2 days. One commenter summarized the feeling shared by thousands of others. People had paid over $1,000 for the Fenix 8, under the unstated but widely understood promise that they'd keep getting the latest features for that price, full stop. Garmin's official answer made things worse, not better. On a Q1 2025 earnings call, CEO Cliff Pemble described the response to the new paywall as positive. He also said the company would likely reserve certain future features for paying subscribers only. Existing customers weren't losing anything they currently had, technically. But the message was unmistakable. The rules customers thought they understood when they bought the device no longer applied to whatever came next. By December, the slide continued. Garmin's new Year in Review feature, the kind of thing competitors like Spotify give away free precisely because it generates organic sharing, launched exclusively behind the Connect Plus paywall. Users reacted with anger and genuine confusion, since locking a feature companies usually use as free advertising made little obvious business sense, beyond squeezing a few more dollars out of an already paying customer. The watch on the wrist never stopped working though. Nothing broke. What broke was the unspoken contract that made Garmin different from every subscription-hungry competitor in the category. And once that contract cracked, a meaningful number of loyal owners started eyeing Coros and Polar instead. Brands that, for now, still don't ask for a monthly fee on top of the hardware. Garmin asked customers to pay more for something they already had. The next brand didn't ask. It just slowly stopped being the thing people bought it for in the first place, one removed feature at a time. Number 2, Fitbit. There's no single villain moment in this entry. No deleted blog post, no surprise paywall, no CEO comment lighting up Reddit overnight. Fitbit's decline reads more like a slow tide going out, one feature at a time, until the people still wearing the device looked down one day and realized the brand they'd bought into wasn't there anymore. It started small. Google, which acquired Fitbit in 2021, began folding the brand into its own ecosystem piece by piece. Then, without much warning, Google Assistant support on Fitbit devices was switched off entirely. Owners on Reddit reported losing the ability to ask their watch a question, set an alarm by voice, or check the weather, features they'd relied on for years, replaced with nothing. Google's own statement acknowledged the change would be disruptive, then offered no actual replacement for Fitbit users specifically. TechRadar started covering it as an ongoing obituary, one update at a time. The slow, painful death of Fitbit continues. A standalone update crushed battery life on the Sense and Versa 3 over overheating concerns, drawing its own wave of complaints. The Fitbit website itself was eventually shut down. The company confirmed its smartwatches would be phased out entirely in favor of the Pixel Watch line. Then came the part that actually ends the story for most remaining owners. Starting in 2023, Google began requiring all new Fitbit sign-ins to go through a Google account. Existing users got a long runway, but the deadline came. By the 19th of May, 2026, legacy Fitbit logins stopped working entirely. Anyone who hadn't migrated risked losing years of step counts, sleep logs, and heart rate history, with data deletion set to begin on the 15th of July, 2026. The Fitbit app itself was formally retired that same week, replaced by Google Health, built around a Gemini-powered AI coach that, unsurprisingly, requires its own separate premium subscription to unlock fully. What makes this one land differently than every other entry on the list is simple. The owners didn't do anything wrong. They didn't fall for hype, or buy oversized, or misread a launch. They bought a product from a company that, piece by piece, walked away from the product while the buyer was still wearing it. The watch hadn't failed. The company behind it had simply decided, quietly and gradually, that the watch wasn't worth being a company about anymore. Fitbit's owners watched their brand disappear slowly enough to feel almost nothing happen. The next entry never gave anyone that luxury. It went from triumphant launch to nearly worthless inside 2 days, the fastest collapse on this entire list. Number 1, the gift watch. Picture the watch nobody on this list has named, because it isn't a model number. It's a story shape repeated thousands of times. The engraved automatic bought for a college graduation. The anniversary piece, initials on the case back. A date that mattered to exactly 2 people. chosen not because the recipient asked for it, but because the giver wanted to mark something permanent. For a while, that's exactly what it does. It gets worn to the first job interview. It shows up in the wedding photo, peeking out from under a cuff. It becomes a small object carrying weight far beyond its retail price, because it isn't really a watch at all. It's a stand-in for a relationship, a moment, a person who believed something would last. Then, the thing the watch was never built to survive happens anyway. A job ends badly. A marriage doesn't. A friendship that felt permanent at 22 quietly stops being permanent at 30. The watch, still functional, still keeping time exactly as designed, becomes something nobody quite knows what to do with. Too personal to wear casually, too loaded to re-gift, too engraved to resell without a stranger eventually noticing someone else's initials on the back. I keep coming back to this one more than any other entry on the list. The other 11 watches all failed because of something measurable: a misaligned hand, a broken promise, a market correction, a company quietly walking away. This one never fails at all. It just outlives the reason it was given. Forum threads about selling engraved watches share a quiet, specific awkwardness you don't see anywhere else in the secondary market. Sellers apologize in the listing for the initials. They explain, sometimes at length, why they're letting it go, even though no buyer asked. They almost always undersell it, because pricing a watch that still carries someone else's name for full value feels, even to a stranger, a little dishonest. What separates this entry from everything before it is the direction of the failure. Every other watch on this list disappointed its owner. This one never did. It did exactly what it was bought to do: mark a moment, hold meaning, sit on a wrist as proof that something mattered. The watch isn't what failed. The thing it was promised to outlast simply didn't, and a watch can't be blamed for outliving a relationship it never had any say in. The brands on this list lost customers because they broke a promise about hardware, price, or access. The gift watch is the only entry where the promise was never about the object at all, and that's exactly why it's the hardest one to get rid of. If you're holding on to something that no longer fits the life you're living, whether that's a watch, a habit, or a version of yourself you've outgrown, the fix usually isn't forcing it to keep working. It's being honest about what it was actually for, then deciding whether that reason still applies. Which one of these is sitting in your drawer right now? Tell me which number and why you haven't sold it yet. Like and subscribe, and see you later.